everyone, this is Angela with Lost in Reviews, and I'm here for a big episode of Blue Monday. You could say I've been on a Blue Monday vacation, but really I just had a real job I had to do for a while. So we got a whole bunch to get caught up on. And the reason it looks like so many is because it's mainly just TV shows. So I'm just kind of going to fly through those. All of these are out now because I'm a couple weeks behind. So just know that everything I do here is already out, okay? First up, I'll start with the TV shows because there's a whole bunch of them. One of my favorites though, Bored to Death Season 3. This show I thought was getting canceled, and it may have actually been suspended for a while, but it came back really strong. This stars Jason Schwartzman as a writer who also works part-time as a private detective, and those adventures he goes out on he ends up using to write stories about. And his two companions in life are Ted Danson and Zach Galifianakis, and the three of them together are just so silly, and just antics ensue. Everything that could go wrong goes wrong, and there's a lot of white wine drinking and weed smoking. This is an HBO show, and it's completely hilarious. I would highly recommend you go find it and check it out. There's only like 8 or 10 episodes on this, and the first couple of the season, it took me a little bit to get back into the show because I had to remember where everyone was at in their life and what was happening. But after they kind of establish that, it just is hilarity all the way through, especially Zach Galifianakis. So if you're a fan of his, definitely check out Bored to Death Season 3. All right, next up we have ABC's Body of Proof, and this is the second season. I actually didn't think this show was going to make it past the first season, but I guess people like Delaney, what's her name? Dana Delaney. And she is a really smart cookie in this show, and there's a lot of dry humor because there's a lot of dead bodies involved. So I guess it does pick up after a while, and it is a watchable show. ABC actually does a pretty good job of getting people to get hooked on their shows. So that's the second season, and go check that out. You see how fast I'm going here? Private Practice. Now this is the fifth, wow, they're already on the 5th season. This is a spin-off from Grey's Anatomy. If anyone ever watched Grey's Anatomy, they know that the redheaded doctor that was an OBGYN left the show, and she got her own show called Private Practice, where they actually went down like California or something and started to practice there. There's a whole bunch of new doctors. Everyone's good looking. It's, you know, it's ridiculously good looking and shot really well. It's not my cup of tea because it's just all drama and no like hospital stuff. That's why I originally liked watching Grey's Anatomy, which actually, let me skip to that one. We have Grey's Anatomy out too. This is the 8th season. Wow, so she's actually been off the show for a while. You can see I used to watch the show in probably the first 3, maybe 4 seasons, and I kind of fell off from watching it because the hospital drama and the surgeries stopped, and then it started just being about drama with McDreamies and McSteamies. But a lot of the main characters are still on the show. I can pretty much keep up with what's going on in the show by watching all the weekly commercials. So it's still going strong, still a lot of drama. We're on the 8th season now, and I mean, look how thick this is. There's a ton of stuff in this one. Next up, we have ABC's Castle. I really like this show. This is season 4. I don't know if you can keep all this straight, all these seasons. I really like Nathan Fillion. This is a show that when I first saw it was coming on, I wasn't really interested in the plot because I don't really like cop dramas, but he's a writer who hangs out with a cop so that he can write stories, and it's hilarious because Nathan Fillion is so sarcastic, and anyone who's watched his old stuff knows that he's, you know, a natural nerd, so he really fits in with the show well and brings in an extra crowd of people that maybe wouldn't normally watch the show. And of course now they're starting to get into a romantic fit with each other. You know, everyone was wanting that to happen, so I don't know how much longer the show's gonna last, because really after that happens, what's there left to watch? I mean, when Jim and Pam on The Office got married, I stopped watching. When Buffy finally got Angel, I stopped watching. So, okay, next up, HBO's Hung, the 3rd season. This is got Thomas Jane starring as a man who doesn't make enough money to get by and pay for his kids to go to school, and he starts prostituting out on the side, or is it called escorting or gigoloing, or I don't know what it's called for a man, but he basically, word gets around that he has a huge thing, and so people start hiring him to go pleasure women, and he makes extra money on that. So there's a lot of like crazy stuff that happens with that thing, you know, people getting involved, people wanting money. It's a big drama. It's okay. I really like Anne Heche on the show, who plays his ex-wife, and he's a good character too. But other than that, there's not a whole lot on the show that really like pulls me in and makes me want to watch it. They need to work a little bit stronger on just like getting the character development, making you want to watch it. But this is the 3rd season. They're doing great. If you want to check out the show, start from season 1 because you'll probably be lost not knowing all the people now. All right. 8th and final season of Desperate Housewives. Finally. I couldn't stand this show. Every single time that the season got renewed, I was like, why? Because it's just literally a drama or a soap opera, I guess. And it's just not my, I don't even need to explain this movie, this show. 8th season, final season, go get it now if you want. How to Make It in America. This is another show from HBO that I didn't know what it was when it first came out. This is the 2nd season now, and I thought this was more of like a documentary, but it's really, it's not. It's a scripted drama, and it's really picking up speed now that they have all these new characters in it, and they're, getting the stories developed. It's a really interesting story. It's a really interesting show, and I would recommend checking that out at least. So I would start with the 1st season. 2 more of the TV shows. I'm going really fast here. Once Upon a Time, this is the 1st season, ABC's new show about sci-fi fantasy kind of stuff, people being witches and wizards and things like that. It's a good and evil kind of show. It's got some great actors in it. I would definitely recommend checking this out because if you're like a big sci-fi fan or fantasy kind of fan, you're definitely going to like this. I can't remember if this show got, oh yes it did. It got renewed for a 2nd season and it's actually starting like right now. So if you want to get caught up, 1st season's available now, Once Upon a Time, so you can go get caught up on it. Last but not least, on the TV shows, we have season 6 of Army Wives, part 1. So I guess the season is actually split into 2. I always thought this was a reality show for the longest time, and it's not. It's a scripted drama, but I think the women change throughout the seasons. I can't be for sure. Obviously, this is a show about Army wives, and anyone who grew up on an Army base, is an Army brat, married to an Army guy, married to an Army woman, maybe, is going to be completely obsessed with this show, because I actually know some people who are hardcore about the show. I have never been able to get into it because it just takes that certain sort of breed. People who live this kind of life can relate to the show. So it's definitely for those kind of people. It's not for me, but it's a pretty good drama. It's acted well and it's shot well. Okay, now on to the movies. I got a bunch of them here. You see I got so many I can't even open them. First up, Criterion's Eating Raoul. This is a 1982 film, which actually is a very big cult film now, and it was made into a play a while ago that actually came through Kansas City about a year, maybe a year and a half ago. I wasn't aware of what the story was until I actually watched the film, and it's a really interesting, black noir comedy about this middle class man and wife, played by the director himself, and they are disgusted by all the swingers living in their building, and they need more money so that they can they wanted to buy this house and build a restaurant next to it and live out in the countryside. Like, that's their dream. But they don't care that they have no money, that their rent was just raised, that he just lost his job. What do they start doing? They start killing off the swingers one by one and taking their money. And they start luring them in by taking out an ad in the newspaper saying that they are a dominatrix team. And so they get all these people to come. It's just like all this hilarity of all these weird, wacky people. Ed Begley Jr. actually plays one of the guys that they knock off. And Raoul is a main character that they are introduced into about half an hour into the movie, and he plays a big part in the film, which I won't spoil anything for you because me not knowing anything about it was actually what made it so great if you hadn't seen it before. Special features are amazing on this. There are tons of interviews with the cast and crew, and there's an old interview with the director and the star who played his wife that was filmed almost directly after the movie was made, and then there's another one filmed in 2012 minus the director because he actually died in 2011, and they reflect back on the film, so I thought that was really great. I love when they can actually look back and you actually see how people have aged over years. And then the director's first 2 films, which are just short 30-minute films, black and white, are on there, and it really shows what kind of things he was into and how it shaped him to become the sick, twisted comedian of a person that he was. Check that out. Buy it. Baby Makers. This is another indie film that came out in March, and I know it screened at South by Southwest. It may have played at a couple other festivals. This is from the same guys who did Beer Fest and Super Troopers, so it's got a lot of the same cast plus Olivia Munn, and she needs to work a little bit on her acting skills. She's not bad, of course she's easy on the eyes, but it was very much like B film kind of acting for her at times. The film is about a married couple who are ready to start a family, but he doesn't have strong swimmers anymore. But he used to donate to a sperm bank years ago, so they want to go to that sperm bank and find his old sperm so they can use that. Well, he has one donation left there, but it's already been sold to someone else, and after they won't sell it to him, he makes a plot with his buddies that they're going to break into the sperm bank and take it back. They're going to steal their own sperm. And so it's hilarious, it's gross, it's raunchy, it's got a lot of fart and dick jokes. And the commentary, or I mean the featurettes of the interviews are just silly. They're making fun of each other, and it's a lot of fun. It's worth a watch, so I'd say rent it. Next up, Hysteria. Whew. All right, this film stars Hugh Dancy and Maggie Gyllenhaal. This came out a couple years ago, and it kind of disappeared for a while, and I kind of see why. It's a film about the invention of the dildo, basically. Back in the day, way back in the day, women were diagnosed with hysteria because they couldn't function, and it was because they needed to get laid, and their husbands wouldn't do it. So it's a film about that, and he's a doctor, and she is a doctor's daughter, but she's like the first feminist of time, you know. She stands up for herself and doesn't let a man do anything for her. So she's really good in the film, and he's okay. The film is a little slow, it's kind of hard to get into, and it's only worth one watch. But the special features are really cool because they have all these documentaries on there about the invention of the dildo and about like the history of hysteria. So that's really interesting. You can tell though it wasn't filmed for the movie, it was something that was filmed for like a documentary channel, and they just put it on there because it's filmed just really wacky. It's like the camera is twisting and turning. I would say check this out, rent it. I don't know if it's worth a buy. Alright, Damsels in Distress. This is another little short indie film from Sony Pictures Classics. I've really been liking the things that they've been putting out lately, but this one I was just really disappointed with. This one stars Greta Gerwig, and she's in college, and I really thought I was going to like this film, but it turns out it was just very dry and dull. And Greta Gerwig is a very good actress that I've liked in a lot of her stuff, but this, I just didn't like her character at all. First of all, the film was filmed entirely with a soft glow over it, so you don't know if they're just trying to airbrush everybody or give it a good look, but that was really distracting because, you know, they used to do that back in the 40s and 50s and it was fine, but nowadays with HD cameras being used, when you use a soft glow and then when you switch to a guy on screen and then you take that soft glow off of there, it just looks really awkward and stands out. Also, these other girls, everyone dresses, I mean, like modern day hipsters, but because they're on a campus that is old, so you've got the brick and the cement walls, and no one carries a cell phone, and you never see anyone on a computer really, you can't tell if this is taking place in the 50s or if it's taking place now. It's not until about 20 minutes into the movie where they go to some party and there's some Ace of Base song playing, and she goes, "Oh, I love throwback nights," or something like that. So that's how you know it's actually in the present. So it's fine, whatever, but it just was hard to figure out when this was taking place. And then the film is about these girls trying to stand up for themselves, and they have some kind of suicide prevention group, which is just total bullshit, really. The film was pretty boring to me and very dry, and it was hard to keep my attention. I'm just gonna come and say, this is the movie I like the least, this out of this pack. I could hardly finish it. I really didn't like it. And then special features are commentary and Q&A with the cast and stuff, and so there's a lot of extra special features on there to talk about the film, but if the film can't pull you in, it doesn't really matter, does it? Next up we have a Stallone pack. This is a 3-pack. Now, I think this has been out for a little while. They have 3 movies here. We have Rambo: First Blood, Copland, and Lockup. So these are all, you know, some of the great movies from Stallone. And I don't think I'd ever seen First Blood until recently. So it actually ranges from, you know, him being very young and starting out in those, and then going up to the newer ones like Lockup is not that old. And then we have special features on each of the films about the film, so it's commentary and such. And he's a great director, and he talks a lot about his films in a lot of detail, so that's kind of interesting. So Stallone fans definitely want to check that out. Next up we have Jason Statham is Safe. This is a movie that kind of flew under the radar because it's just another Jason Statham movie. I mean, if you want to see people blowing up, lots of gun shooting, and lots of angry talking on the cell phone while driving a fast car, watch a Jason Statham movie. I can't talk bad about him. Some people really like him. Some people, like my mom, is a really big fan of Jason Statham, and that's fine. I like his voice. I just think that he needs to branch out a little bit because all of his movies kind of run together. So, I mean, this could be any of his movies. This could be Crank. This, you know, you just wouldn't know. And special features, there's writer-director commentary, and then they talk about the gunfights and some of the cinematography that they use in the film, which is always interesting when it's an action film because you really do learn a lot about the film at that point. So I'd check that out, definitely if you're a Statham fan. Okay, 3 left. How am I doing? Okay, Salvation Boulevard. This is another little small indie film that I saw a trailer for a long time ago, and then it slipped through the cracks and it disappeared for a while. Stars Pierce Brosnan and Greg Kinnear, who, if you watched Matador, they were great. They were great in that film. So this is kind of the same kind of black noir kind of comedy, where Pierce Brosnan is a preacher or a pastor that's one of those big time name ones that writes books and goes on tours to speak in places. So he is speaking somewhere, and Greg Kinnear is one of his followers, and his story is kind of strange, but he was a Grateful Dead fan, and then he kind of fell into this group and he's followed them around ever since. It explains it better in the movie, but I'm trying to hurry along. Pierce Brosnan is at a debate where he's standing on stage and arguing his religious views and thoughts against a well-known atheist who has also published books. So after the debate's over, the two of them with Greg Kinnear go back into the atheist's office to have a talk about how great this worked out and how they should co-author a book together with each of their thoughts. And everything's going along great, everyone's getting along fine. But Pierce Brosnan picks up one of these old 1800 guns and is just kind of playing around with it, and then in the middle of their conversation points it to the guy and just kind of playing around goes like, and it's loaded, and he blows the guy's brains out. So the rest of the movie takes chaos paths where he's trying to cover up his own murder. They're going through and erasing videotapes that showed they were ever there. Then he's trying to knock out Greg Kinnear because he was a witness to the crime, and he's doing all this because he's about to get some big funding for a new church or a new book or something. I can't remember which, but either way, I wanted to like this a lot more, and it was hard for me to get into it. It really was. It was dry and slow towards the middle. It was kind of chaotic, and it made me laugh at times, so it's definitely worth watching once, but I think I definitely expected a lot more of it. But it was a great cast, and I really wanted to love this film. So Salvation Boulevard, again, one of those films that kind of disappeared after a while, but now it's available. Probably could find it in a Redbox if you wanted to spend $1 or rent it. Okay, a couple more here. We have on Blu-ray, Where Do We Go Now? So this is a foreign film that takes place in a small remote village that there's only one road in and out of this town, and the rest of it they're just surrounded by areas where people can't reach them. They're in a war zone area, so it's the Christians versus the Muslims all the time, so lots of men are dying. There's dramatically a lot more women in this town than there are men. Well, they finally announced that the war between these two religions is over. Everyone rejoices, everyone gets back to their life. Well, this small town finally gets their first TV, and so they set it up on the hill where they can finally get reception, and everyone gathers around to watch it, and then they find out on the news channel that, oh, the Christian and Muslims are starting to fight once again, and people are getting hurt. The women of this town are so afraid to lose their sons and their fathers and their husbands, even more than they already have, that they start doing whatever ridiculous things they can to keep the men in the town from finding out what's going on outside of the town. So they bust up the TV when no one's looking, and they speak over the radio, and they tear down the cords so that people can't get outside communication because they just don't want their men to die, which that's understandable. It's a very cute story, and there's two main central characters that are just so outstandingly gorgeous compared to everyone else in the town. You can tell that they're destined for love. And they have kind of a Bollywood kind of love, if that makes sense, where they're singing and dancing in their own minds with each other. So it's a really sweet film. It is very slow. I did nod off a little bit during parts of it because it's so quiet. But it was an interesting story, and I kept watching it. And there's commentary and featurettes with the staff or with the crew and the cast talking about the film and what made it important to them. So really good little film by Sony Pictures Classics that you should check out. It's called Where Do We Go Now? Okay, last but not least, on DVD we have a little small indie film from Lionsgate called Girl in Progress. You may have heard of this because it has Eva Mendes in it, so she's kind of a bigger name, but Lionsgate has been putting out a lot of films lately that are more geared towards just other ethnicities rather than just the white man. And they've been doing a really great job of it, although I didn't really like Casa de Padre with Will Ferrell, but that's another story. Eva Mendes is a young single mom who got pregnant when she was 17, and her mom kicked her out because she just wasn't having it. So she's been raising this girl all along on her own, trying to work to make enough money to get through things. And so she does work hard. She pays a lot of money to keep her girl in school, who's about 16 in this movie, but she's not a very good mom. She's not very attentive, and she when she works as a maid in people's house, she ends up dating the dads there. So she's very rebellious and non-traditional. And the girl is such a good student, but she's done with her mom. She's sick of her. So she really wants to get out and go on with her life. She wants to have her own coming of age story, and it actually says that in the film. She wants to go through the series of, you know, losing her virginity to the bad boy and doing drugs and stuff, and she thinks once she gets through all these things she'll be an adult and she can like actually leave the house. So it's a good coming of age story, and I would suggest moms and daughters sit and watch it together. It was really cute. It was low budget, you could tell, but I liked it. I enjoyed it. I watched the whole thing, and I would recommend checking it out. I know I didn't definitely give a buy or a rent to any of these. I gave a skip to the damsels in distress, but definitely check out all these. I know I flew through them really quickly, but that's because I just want to get caught up with you guys. So tune in next week and I'll have more of a normal bunch for you. Okay, thanks. Bye.